Hi everyone, welcome to our new unit on probability. Please make sure that you have a pencil or a pen and your math notebook or some loose leaf paper ready to go so you can take down some notes on vocabulary and sample problems. Please pause the video if you need to go get those materials. You can hit resume when you're ready. Probability is the likelihood of the occurrence of an event. The probability of event A is written as capital P and then in parentheses A. Now A really represents some event that you're trying to find the probability of happening. Probabilities are always going to be calculated as a numerical value that is between 0 and 1 inclusive. That word inclusive means that the probability could include the number 0 or it could include the number 1, but also includes all fractions of numbers in between 0 and 1. Probability is calculated by figuring out the number of ways an event can occur and putting that over the number of possible outcomes there are altogether. Here's a quick example. The probability of rolling a 5 on a number cube. The notation looks like this. Capital P and then in parentheses 5. That reads the probability of rolling a 5 is equal to 1 because there's only one way you can roll a 5. There's only one 5 on a number cube. Over 6 because there are 6 different faces of the number cube that it could land on. So the probability of rolling a 5 on a number cube is equal to 1/6. There are 4 basic rules of probability. Number 1, for any event A, the probability will be between 0 and 1. So the probability of any event is going to be some numerical value between 0 and 1 and can include the numbers 0 and 1. Number 2, the probability of an impossible event is equal to 0. So in other words, if it is not possible that this event can happen, then the probability of that event is 0. Number 3, the probability of a sure event is equal to 1. So in other words, if an event is guaranteed to happen, then the probability will be equal to 1. So for example, what is the probability that the sun rises in the east? The sun always rises in the east. That is guaranteed to happen. Therefore, the probability that the sun will rise in the east is 1. Number 4, the probability of an event not happening. So that's written as the probability of not A is equal to 1 minus the probability of A. We're going to talk more about that in a little while. Experiment. So an experiment, when we're talking about probability, is defined as a situation involving chance that leads to results or outcomes. An event is a set of possible outcomes resulting from a particular experiment. Outcome is defined as a single specific possible result of an experiment. Here are a couple examples of outcomes. So if your experiment is tossing or flipping a coin, the possible outcomes are the coin could land on heads or the coin could land on tails. If your experiment is rolling a 6-sided die, the possible outcomes are the die could land on a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, a 5, or a 6. Sample space is defined as a list of all the possible outcomes of an experiment. There is a certain way to write the sample space, and it looks like this. S, for sample space, is equal to, notice the brackets that are at the beginning and the end of the list of the possible outcomes. So this looks like it would be the sample space for rolling a die. There are 6 things that could happen, the 1, the 2, the 3, the 4, the 5, or the 6. We put those numbers inside of those brackets. So let's go back to the outcomes that are not the event. This is called finding the complement of an event. So the complement of an event is defined as all the outcomes that are not the event. The complement can be calculated by doing 1 minus the probability of the event happening. Just to get your head wrapped around what the complement of an event is, let's take a look at a couple examples. So example 1, the complement of flipping heads on a coin would be flipping tails. Example 2, the complement of rolling a 6 on a number cube would be rolling any other number except for 6. Example 3, the complement of randomly choosing Monday or Tuesday as days of the week would be choosing any other days besides those. So that would include the outcomes Sunday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Let's take a look at a couple examples. So thinking about rolling a number cube or a die, let's take a look at the probability of rolling a 4 on a number cube. So remember that probability is the number of ways the event can happen over the number of possible outcomes. So there's only one way to roll a 4 on a number cube because a number cube only has one side of it that has the number 4 or the 4 dots on it. However, there are 6 possible ways, 6 possible things that could happen. We could roll the 1, the 2, the 3, the 4, the 5, or the 6. So the probability of rolling a 4 on a number cube is 1/6. Okay? The probability of rolling an odd number on a number cube. Now, there are 3 different odd numbers on a number cube. A 1, a 3, and a 5. Those are all odd numbers. So there are 3 ways that rolling an odd can happen out of 6 possible outcomes altogether. Now, if our fraction probability is something that we can simplify, we always should do that. So I can divide both of these by 3 and calculate that the probability of rolling an odd number on a number cube is 1/2. All right, let's take a look at another example. So this time, let's take a look at a spinner. So just in case people can't really distinguish between the colors, in case I have any colorblind friends out there, this spinner has 8 sections, numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Sections 8 and 1 are colored purple, 2 and 3 are yellow, 4, 5, and 6 are blue, and section 7 is red. So let's first take a look at finding the probability that when we spin on this spinner, we would land in a purple section. So probability of purple is going to be 2, because there are 2 ways that could happen. I could land on the 8 or the 1, which are both purple, out of 8 sections altogether. Remember that we should simplify, so the probability of landing on a purple section is equal to 1/4. All right, let's take a look at the probability of landing on a blue section. So the probability of landing on blue, there are 3 ways that could happen. I could land on 4, 5, or 6, which are all blue, out of the 8 sections altogether. If our probability fraction is in simplest form, which it is, we're just going to leave it alone. The probability of landing on blue is 3/8. Now, the complement. Remember that the complement of landing on a blue section is going to be the probability of not landing on blue. Okay, so it looks like there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sections that are not blue out of 8 sections altogether. But earlier we talked about the fact that the complement can be found by calculating 1 minus the probability of the event. So that would be 1 minus the probability of landing on blue. Now we already calculated the probability of landing on blue to be 3/8. So in order to do 1 minus 3/8, I'm going to turn 1 into 8/8. 8/8 minus 3/8 is equal to 5/8. So two different ways that we can calculate the probability of the complement of an event. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I think you have enough to get started on your first assignment with probability. Please check your teacher's notes as to what your assignment is. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.